So, Nick, first of all, what's your reaction to what you heard at the inquiry today?
Angela van den Bogerde is a very clever woman. This is the 5th day of evidence I've seen her give because I watched her over 2 days in 2 trials at the High Court litigation. Now, at the end of that, the Bates v Post Office big court case that blew open this whole scandal, the judge found that she had expressly sought to mislead him on oath. So trusting her evidence is a bit of a difficult thing to do when you go into an inquiry session like this.
And so she was saying, oh, I'm truly, truly sorry, but she managed not to be truly sorry for anything.
Well, you are seeing a lot of what I call passive apologies over this inquiry. People saying, I'm sorry for what happened to you, rather than for what I did to you. Now, there's no doubt that Angela van den Bogerde, very, very senior person, very well connected to the issues that the sub-postmasters were having, knew an awful lot about what was going on. But today she was claiming ignorance of IT, ignorance of legal issues, ignorance of investigation issues. And it just seemed that whilst she was aware that something bad has happened, she wasn't ever the originator of those bad things. And she wasn't particularly good at knowing who might be.
And that's what I find extraordinary. And you know, it might be a bit trite to say that success, of course, has many parents. Failure is an orphan. And as we look at this particular situation, there she is. Now, I suppose you look at the answers and say, OK, well, maybe you didn't have your knowledge of this particular detail, or you don't recall that email, or you don't recall that conversation. Having said that, you were in a really senior position. Frankly, you should be held accountable for what you don't know. So I don't care whether you admit to it and you know and you made mistakes, or you don't admit to it, you have no knowledge, you weren't doing your job. So either way, incompetence at best, malicious misdemeanour at worst.
Well, a lot of these executives are in a bit of a bind because if they claim to be on top of their brief, then they're part of the conspiracy. And don't forget, the police are investigating what happened at the post office as a potential conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. So every executive who's being questioned is running a million miles away from that into the realms of incompetence, and that's what we're hearing and seeing. I mean, there were occasions this morning where Angela van den Bogerde was told and taken to emails where she knew, or at least was given information whereby it would be almost ridiculous not to conclude that there was remote access to the Horizon IT system and that there were bugs and errors in it which were causing discrepancies in sub-postmaster branch accounts. And yet she did nothing about it and then denied she knew anything about it in the High Court. This is why it's so serious, because sub-postmasters, innocent people, were being sent to prison. We've been given an outline of how this sort of corporate cover-up happened. And corporate cover-ups happen all the time. I get it. There's a party line. There's messaging that everyone sticks to. There's denialism until something's uncovered. But the result of this cover-up was that innocent people suffered, and it denied them the opportunity to get appeals.
So what's the worst aspect of this? The fact that we've still got people covering up and not even giving the truth, or at least not giving access to what their role in this was. We know what the scandal is. Or the fact that the scandal continues today. And it continues today because we have sub-postmasters who have not been paid out the full amount. That we keep hearing from politicians and senior management that they're going to be paid and they're not. And yet those senior managers in particular, at the post office currently, are happy to pay hundreds of thousands, if not millions, to lawyers to continue with the case and with the advice, and yet they are not prepared to pay out the money, which is not compensation, it's their money. This is a scandal happening in front of our eyes. And in the past. I find it astonishing that no one's taking responsibility for anything.
I saw a message from someone in New Zealand the other day who started to get their head around what's been happening in this country, and he said this is Enron-scale stuff. This is Enron-scale stuff with damaged families and damaged sub-postmasters all over the country. I was at the inquiry today with a lad who was sent to prison in 2002. He only found out in 2015 that he wasn't on his own. And he showed me a letter that he had from Angela van den Bogerde saying, there's nothing wrong with the IT system. There's been no miscarriages of justice. If you want to take your chances in the court, you can instruct a lawyer. That's the measure of that woman. And what we're finding out is that she knew an awful lot more about what was happening in that scandal than she was letting on. But at the moment, she's very much so, well, I didn't quite make the connection between the information that I was being given and what was happening.
Yeah, well, I think she's playing an interesting game, and thankfully you continue to look at it, observe it.